Settle Squad podcast, episode 41. It's not meant to be easy. This episode covers the main limiting belief that holds people back from putting in the work and the perspective shift that makes you welcome hard work instead of avoid it. Most people drop off when something gets tough, but if you're part of the Don't Settle Squad, I know you don't want this to be you. In this episode, I will cover the limiting beliefs that lead to drop-offs, perspective shifts around hard work so you can see it for what it really is, and the tactics you can use to push through the tough times. I'll also cover one common misconception around hard work that you don't want to fall into. Behind the scenes, huh? See, I usually have a little mini break. Once I do the intro, little stretch out, and then straight into the whole thing with no breaks. Just because I haven't been consistent with the podcast in a few weeks, I messed up the intro a few times. Slightly annoying, but yeah, once we get into it, it's fine. Okay, where are we going? It's not meant to be easy. Right. Okay, so this episode, it's not meant to be easy. I broke it down into 3 separate parts. But first of all, it was from the Instagram stories. I was actually chatting about dropping off the podcast, which I mentioned last week. And just with a few stories around that, I was getting a few likes on a post, on one of the stories. And it was about this, that it's not meant to be easy. And just saying that even though I dropped off the podcast a few weeks, like when I zoom out over the whole year, if I stay consistent each week until the rest of the year, I'm still 79% on track. So I'm still like 80% consistent towards my goals, which is literally what I tell clients. Like, look, nothing's perfect. You're not going to do the program every single day, whatever. If you're just 80% consistent, you're going to keep moving forward with mobility, with anything in life. So it's always good, like when you drop off things, just to be able to zoom out and see that for yourself. And that's coming under the principle that like progress isn't always linear. And if you think it is, you're falling for the illusion of perfection. Nothing's perfect. So you get back on the horse, don't settle, chase the small gains again. And as I said, aiming for that 80%. So that's where it came from. Got a few likes on that. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'll pick that for the podcast this week. So a lot more to dive into on that in terms of how I'm thinking about it. So the first point then is the fact that it's hard is what makes it worth doing. And I don't think a lot of people understand this. Like, I'm not coming at this from the lens of, just the grind and hustle 24/7 and like just shut up and do it and all that kind of, and even the discipline equals freedom. Like, it's not just like bulldogging through it when things get tough. That didn't exactly work for me. Like, I need to understand things on a deeper level. So once you actually dive into it, like this point 1, this is what changed the game for me in terms of hard work, or one of the reasons. So once we go through it, so like I just said, the fact that it's hard makes it worth doing. So if you're on any journey of self-development, like you could even say mobility, getting back your physical freedom, you're developing yourself in some way, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's strength, mindset, relationships, business, career, whatever it is, you're building your character along the way. Like, that's, maybe you realize it, maybe you don't. You're trying to evolve as a person. Self-development, you're trying to develop yourself. That's the point of it. So that actually can't happen unless things get hard. Like, think if you had an extremely easy path. If you had chronic pain and injuries for 10 years, I gave you one mobility drill to fix you, and it worked, and you were fixed for life. How have you actually developed there? How have you built your character? You haven't at all, because there was no challenge. It wasn't tough at all. There was no stress. That's how humans evolve. We get stressed, then we adapt. That's our mind, that's our body, that's everything. So there's been no stress, there's been no challenge. So you haven't actually adapted and changed. Hence, that example doesn't make sense, because your body wouldn't have adapted and changed because you didn't stress it for long enough. But that's just crucial to understand. Like, it's a logic fail, thinking, oh, why is this so hard? Like, why isn't it easier? If it was easy, you wouldn't change. Like, it's impossible to be the person that you want to be without going through the tough times, because it's that stress that makes you adapt to get, or to become the person you need to be to hit the goal you're trying to hit. So it's just complete logic, Phil, and that's what helps me too sometimes when I'm just like, thinking, oh, this is so hard or whatever, and then I can remind myself at this point and be like, Mark, it needs to be this way. It can't be any other way. If it wasn't hard, you wouldn't adapt and become the person you need to be. So it really just helps me, that flip in your head straight away. It's a great frame and perspective and the truth, to be honest, of the fact that, like I said, the fact that it's hard makes it worth doing. What else did I have under that point? Like Hormozy has a take on this as well, where he would say, make the inputs the goal. So it's the same thing, like he's come to the same end goal of, this is all about building your character. So instead of focusing on the outputs, like the actual outcome, went to the gym a few times, I'm not jacked yet, or did the few mobility drills, don't have my full physical freedom yet, he would say to focus on the inputs, because that's what's going to build your character over time anyway. So look, a very similar angle there. And yeah, one more point on this as well, the concept of perceived challenge. So this is going into like human psychology, and if you don't know this, it'll be very interesting for you and help change the way you look at hard work. Humans subconsciously don't value something if they don't have to put in work to attain it. So if something's easy, we don't value it naturally. And like, maybe you don't realize this, you do it subconsciously, but it'll be brought into your conscious awareness now. If someone came up to you trying to sell something and they sell it for 1 cent, like let's say me, I'm like, oh yeah, look, come do my coaching. You're like, how much is it? I'm like, it's 1 cent. Straight away your mind is going, who's this sham? Who's this? Well, I can't even think of the word. Scam, not sham. Going into Longford Town talk there. Who's this guy kind of trying to scam me here? Like, it's only 1 cent. This program must be shit. Like, he must not know. He must have no clients. He must not know what he's on about. Like, that's what's going on in your mind subconsciously. Whereas if I'm like, it's €1,000, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration there. 2, 3, 400 euro, whatever. You could be like, oh yeah, he must know his stuff if he's charging that kind of money, and I can see his clients there, they're paying him that money. Yeah, like he must know something. He must have some sort of value. Okay, so that's the thing, is like in our minds, value is very tightly linked with like the effort, or if something is hard. And obviously that was kind of in terms of money, but like even in terms of the body, let's say, right, you want to be jacked, mobile, strong, all these things. If you could get that in 3 gym sessions, would you appreciate it? Not at all. Not at all. Would you have changed in terms of your character or anything like that? No, not at all. If you lost it overnight, would you be able to get it back the correct way, the way it has to happen in real life? No, because you haven't grown your character at all. So it's just really cool to kind of know that, like, perceived challenge. It links into everything, into relationships. Give a relationship example there. Perceived challenge. I'll take from the lad's point of view, because I'm a lad, obviously. So a woman comes up to you and you talk to her for 2 minutes. You've literally just met her for the first, like, let's say it's a date. It's a first date. We've only met each other. Hey, hello, how are you? What job are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, will you be my girlfriend? Like, what? So hence perceived challenge. There was zero challenge there from me. Like, I'm just like, oh, look, here I am. Yeah. Oh, you're good enough for me. Yeah. There you go. Take me. Like, will you be my girlfriend? What? Like, straight away, that would repulse the woman. And she may not even know why, but like deep down, it's like, he must not value himself if he will just give himself away into a relationship that easily. Like, I didn't even have to show him anything that's good about me for him to say that. So again, perceived challenge is huge. Like, it's just human psychology. And of course, human psychology comes into everything, to relationships, to business, to the gym, career, to your work, everything. Okay, so that's just the kind of last angle on the fact that it's hard is what makes it worth doing. Second point then, this is something to be aware of when we're talking about this, like, because maybe from the first point, you may think like, oh, if something isn't hard, then it's not valuable at all. But like most things in life, there's nuance and kind of exceptions to this. So look, everything I would have said in point 1, valid, but I heard this on a podcast. I don't know, was it Modern Wisdom or where it was, but yeah, it was a great point, because they were saying, be aware of the value difficulty conflation. It's even good to Google words. I Googled it, like I had the gist of what conflation was, but it's when like two things are merging together. So yeah, to look, I'll just say it once more and then I'll give an example. so that you'll definitely understand it. We don't want to be fooled into thinking that because something is difficult, that it's always going to be valuable. Okay, that's the case most of the time. Look, to get good body, you have to train in the gym for years. To get physical freedom, it could take months or a year. To get a good relationship, good career. All these things take time and hard work, and that's one of the big reasons why we value it. Like we're saying, perceived challenge, and that's also what builds your character, to cover points 1 again. But there can be times where this isn't the case. An example is, I think it's the one they gave in the podcast of sugar. I didn't actually write it down. What was it? Was it money, fame? Let me think for 1 sec. Yes, I think it was the money, fame, because it was like, look, the Instagram era, the TikTok era, you could just go kind of viral overnight. Let me see. No, that's not it. I know what it was now. Sorry. It was still along that tangent. It was, you could work very, very hard to get famous, we'll say. But does that mean it's valuable? No. It's just slight distinctions of like, look, you'd work very hard to get money to feed your family, to get respect from your peers, to give out value in things that you love and are passionate about, etc. Cool. If it's coming more from that angle, that's different. But like, if you just put in like loads and loads of hard work just to be famous, and you're thinking, oh, well, like, I have to put in all this hard work, so it must be like valuable, it must be great if you're famous, and then like, you're famous, and as we hear many times, like, people end up hating it, etc. So it's just, beware of the value difficulty conflation. So you could run it through that filter. Look, you could go with point 1 first, but then the second point is, well, like, when you're on your path, you're working hard, you're building a character, just think, wait, am I conflating the value and the difficulty here? Like, do I think this thing is valuable just because it's hard? Do you see what I mean? So it's just, really important to be aware of that point, because you don't want to spend 5, 10, 15 years working hard on something because you think it's valuable, and then at the very end finding it. Like, I'll give other examples there as well. You could say the career example. It's such hard work to climb to the top of a company, become like the CEO or whatever. Imagine doing that for 20, 30, 40 years. Now you're CEO of this company, and you realize you don't actually value it that much because you can't see your family at all, for example. So look, we'll end it on that. Beware of the value difficulty conflation. Third one then, I just had a few frames and anchors to help you push through when it's tough. These are kind of the frames or the anchor. I like the word anchor because, to me, when we feel like dropping off, that's the kind of analogy, isn't it? Like, you're trying to throw down the anchor. And that's actually one of them here. Like, that, I just remember saying this line to myself before, but it, kind of got me amped up. I was like, when others are jumping ship, you're throwing down the fucking anchor. Like, this is part of the don't settle attitude. Look, things are tough. People are giving up. You're in a bit of a slump. You're not getting small gains in progress. What do most people do? Drop off. What are you doing now? You're throwing down the fucking anchor. Because you don't want to settle. It's part of the journey. Progress isn't always linear. You need to play the long game. All these other things I'm preaching. So that's one of them. That's what I think sometimes. Look, when I'm about to jump off the ship, I think I was trying to say there, you're throwing down the anchor. Other ones here, someone else said this is where others quit. Whenever they're in those tough times, again, these are probably random things from podcasts or people I follow. When other people are dropping off, he goes, oh, great, this is where other people quit, but I'm not going to quit, and that's where I'm going to be where they aren't in a few years' time. So next one there, this is from Matt Fraser. So Matt Fraser was CrossFit champion. I'm not a guy who follows that a whole lot, but I think he was won it the most times ever. Was it 4 or 5? And the line stuck with me that he said when he was doing like all those mad training sessions, preparing for it to be the quote, fittest man for 5 years in a row. He would say, today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't. So you'll see all these frames are the same, but it's just, that was a good one too. And it's obviously a bit of a rhyme as well, which helps you remember it. So it was, today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I will do what others can't. That can be another little anchor you can think of when you want to drop off. And then I suppose I had 2 of my own ones here. Like, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you settle for. That was one of my biggest realizations from overcoming the chronic pain all those years ago, and just accepting the truth. Because it's obviously a tough path, and I've gone to so many people, and I've been up, down, bits of progress here, back to the start. Oh yeah, bits of progress. Oh, now I'm back worse than I was before, and all this type of stuff. And just when I eventually committed to it 1000%, burned the boats, that's it's more a harsh line that I'd say to myself sometimes, just when I want to drop off again. I'm like, look, like, even if if you think you deserve to be back doing jiu-jitsu and doing all these things because you're not, quote, a bad person, like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you settle for. Are you going to settle for this? Are you going to, yes or no? Simple answer. The answer is no, and you keep moving forward. So yeah, I think, look, that's enough. There's 4 or 5 of them there. I think there's another 2 or 3, but they're all centered around the same thing. So hopefully that's making more sense now, because usually once we understand something deeper, it's much easier to latch onto it. Like, when you're going to drop off, if you're just clinging to, the other stuff, which is good too, like, let's just the David Goggins or even the Jocko Willink, which, look, I love his stuff, obviously, and he does go deeper on it, but just some of the catchphrases, it's not enough. Like, you have to dive deeper on some of their content to really understand it. Like, it's going back to the quote from, isn't it, Nietzsche? Like, what is it? He who has a strong why can suffer almost any how, or whatever that quote actually is. But it's the same point there. Look, you need a why behind it. You need to actually understand these things. If you're just getting a little quote off TikTok and then just trying to think of that when you want to give up, you're probably going to give up. So we'll leave it there for this week. 3 ways I can help you then. So we have the Physical Freedom Program. That's my one-to-one coaching program on how to overcome chronic pain and injury and reach your athletic potential. So I've worked with hundreds of clients there, over 37 different sports and activities, over 3 separate continents, covering all joints to the human body. So if you want to join those not settling for the movement limitations, DM me on Instagram, or else email me at guidandsettle@gmail.com. We have the Mental Freedom course as well. So that's my self-awareness course that teaches you how to stop looping and suffering and gives you practical tools to skillfully navigate your own mind. So you can check that one out too. Lifestyle Design University then, my cheapest one. So just for €49, you'll have the blueprint to design the life true to yourself. So in there, you learn how to create a vision, how to use my self-development system, and how to move the levers to freedom, which close the gap towards the life you want over time. And it helps us avoid the biggest regret of humanity in the process, which is not living a life true to myself, living the life others expected of me. And then in terms of follow contact, the website is there. Documentaries up there as well, actually, for maybe people listening to this for the first time, wondering who I am, what all this guidance stuff is about. If you just go onto the website, or even on my Instagram, my first pinned post, you'll see the documentary I did there on my own story, and obviously the message and what I'm trying to put out there for people. And the email then, guidandsettle@gmail.com, or else Instagram as well. That's where I'll be most active. You can DM me on Instagram either. So that's it for this week. Another episode down. That's 2 in a row now. And we're going to keep it going for the rest of the year, hopefully. And as well, this will be up on YouTube too. So I see other people doing that, just putting it up on YouTube as well as the podcasts. And that's fair enough, because for me, I'm listening to podcasts every week. I love them, hence why I'm doing my own. But I also like watching YouTube. So more so when I'm eating lunch or eating dinner, I'll put on something on YouTube. Not necessarily a podcast, but other YouTube videos and things like that. But look, I get it. Some people prefer to watch the podcast, would say, rather than listen. So that's going to be up there on the YouTube as well. Cool. So that's it. So talk to you next week. Don't settle. Live true to yourself. See you soon.